I'd like to begin, if we might, just on your reaction to what we saw earlier in this week in the conversation between President Trump and President Putin. Do you feel that this is sort of sincere and real progress towards a ceasefire? How do you interpret what we got from the two presidents?
I have no doubts that President Donald Trump is really has very frank intention to achieve the peace, to achieve the ceasefire. The same I should say about the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskiy. But when it comes to Russia, I don't see this frank intention to achieve the consensus or to proceed with the negotiations. And so far, Russia is imitating the negotiations, talking about possible peace and about possible ceasefire. But they are not even ready to keep the ceasefire as promised, not to attack, not to strike the critical infrastructure of Ukraine. After the Putin promise to President Trump that he will stop the activities against the critical infrastructure, actually they were continuing these operations. It is the information provided by Ukraine, and of course it shows that the willingness of Russian Federation to get the result is very limited.
And in terms of, this is something that I'm sure took a lot of space in the conversations you had yesterday, how Europe basically gets a seat at the table. Are you concerned that basically the bilateral discussions between Trump and Putin effectively formalize Europe being sidelined? How does Europe get its seat at the table? What can it offer in these negotiations?
Europe can play a very important role, not by discussing, but by taking the decisions. And we are taking decisions. We have very clear position on strengthening the pressure on Russia. We were talking about the sanctions, 17 package of sanctions for Russia. We were talking about further and even larger military support to Ukraine. And I think those actions are most effective if we really want to proceed and to have these negotiations through strength. Because the position of Europe is we have to bring Putin to the table of negotiations through strength.
And I think one of the concerns that we had from this meeting over the last 24 hours is in terms of concrete deliverables. There was, yes, the verbal support for Ukraine, but there was a failure to get to this $5 billion ammunition package. Is the sort of EU, has it reached its limit in terms of concrete short-term steps that they can deliver? And do we now need to look at that coalition of the willing spearheaded by Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer in order to get these deliveries to Ukraine?
I think we should wait until the meeting which will take place next week. And it's very important to have these, as you say, deliverables according to the plan led by United Kingdom and France. We are talking about possible presence, European military presence, after the ceasefire, after the peace negotiations. And my country is ready to provide the necessary support, and we are talking about very concrete numbers of our military troops, but there should be commitment of all countries participating in this coalition to provide this support. So I think the discussions will be done, but I would like to underline that Europe will play a larger role, but for that we need decisions.
And can I ask what that number is, what you're willing to commit?
We are so far in the discussions, and probably it would be too premature to mention very concrete figures. I will be ready to deliver these figures during our meetings.
And then there's also been a lot of discussion about basically the United States' willingness to defend all of its NATO allies. I understand your defense minister has recently come back from the United States. Do you have the reassurances from the U.S. administration that that is a secure proposal?
At this moment, I would say we have very positive signals that the focus of United States on eastern flank of NATO will remain strong. This is very important because, in my view, it's the best factor of deterrence. if United States will keep the presence in the eastern flank, it would deter Russia from some aggressive actions in the future. And we are ready to host even more American soldiers. We have needed infrastructure. We are ready to provide all the necessary support to them. This is a matter of political decision, and I hope very much, and I look forward that this decision will be done.
And there has been a discussion as well as expanding France's nuclear capabilities, deterrence of the nuclear umbrella. Would you be willing, would you be open, would you welcome hosting French nuclear arms within Lithuania?
Those are two separate questions. First of all, yes, umbrella itself, and deployment of nuclear equipment in the country. So far, we didn't start the discussion regarding the deployment of any nuclear weapons on the territory of Lithuania. But we are willing, and we will be willing, to discuss the possibility to use this possibility, this nuclear shield provided, or at least idea of nuclear shield for eastern flank countries, including my country. So President Macron expressed a very interesting idea. So far, we have many questions and we need answers, algorithms, how it will look like. And I think the President Macron expressed the view that probably there is a need to send experts and to discuss it at the experts level.